if you will. I heard it through the grapevine. Yeah. Part one. I heard it, Sylvia, through the grapevine. I heard it through the grapevine, as you know, is a landmark song in the history of Motown. It was written by two gentlemen, one named Norman Whitfield and the other one is Barrett Strong, in 1966. It was Smokey Robinson and the Miracles that did the first recording. The third recording was by Gladys Knight and the Pips. Took place on September 25, 1967. But the third recording is the one that became Marvin Gaye's signature song, even though Marvin Gaye recorded his before Gladys and the Pips. He didn't let it out and sing it until afterwards. And he introduced his on October 30, 1968. And for those of you, Marcus and Ashante, you don't know who Marvin Gaye is. So let me help you with the lyrics, Kevin, because they got this thing where you can get the lyrics from. I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to say it. But it would start off, Ashante, Marvin with the skull cap and the beard would say, ooh, I bet you're wondering how I knew. That's on the song. He said, about your plans to make me blue. With some other guy, he would hit up on that one that you knew before. He said, between the two of us guys, you know I love you more. Floyd, he went on to say, it took me by surprise, I must say, when I found out yesterday. Then he would go on to say, don't you know that I heard it through the grapevine. He said, not much longer would you be mine. He said, oh, I heard it through the grapevine. And he said, oh, I'm just about to lose my mind. Then he'd stop Kevin and say, honey, yeah. Then he would pick back up. You know it, Dale, but he said, I know that a man ain't supposed to cry. Sister Ruth, he said, but these tears I can't hold inside. There, she went on to say, losing you would end my life, you see, because you mean that much to me. Then he got mad and said, you could have told me yourself that you love someone else. But instead, I heard it through the grapevine. He said, people say believe half of what you see, son, and none of what you hear. So I can't help being confused. If it's true, please tell me, dear. He said, do you plan to let me go for the other guy, Floyd, that you loved before? He said, because I heard it through the grapevine. Yeah, I could imagine YouTube and Google when you get out of church. I heard it through the grapevine, Kevin, what that saying that has come up to us when we were kids. What people would say is they would come up to you and say, you know, I heard it through the grapevine. And what they were saying is that I've gotten wind of something. Susan, they would say, they would mean it has come down through the lines of communication. It has come to me through a third party. I wasn't there, but they said, I heard it through the grapevine. And as we look at John chapter 15, and as we focus on our mission of being fruit-bearing disciples, I was not there on the night in which Jesus shared with them, but I got an older brother by the name of John the Apostle, and I can say like Marvin, I heard it, Kevin, through the grapevine. The last verse, Taylor Jones, in John chapter 14, it tells us that Jesus and his disciples are about to leave the upper room. And Matthew tells us specifically in chapter 26, verse 29, Paul Smith, he tells us what they were doing in the upper room. That's where Jesus had just finished sharing with the brothers what we call the Lord's Supper or the Eucharist or communion if you will. And this is the last things that came off of his lips in the upper room. He said, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until I drink it that day new with you in my Father's kingdom. The Bible also tells us, Sister Burden, that after they leave the upper room, it tells us that they are heading to the Garden of Gethsemane. And you know what took place in the Garden of Gethsemane. When they got to the Garden of Gethsemane, just after Jesus told them that his body would be broken, his blood would be shed, he got there and there were some things going on the inside of him that you and I would never be able to understand. So he tells the disciples, y'all stay right here. And then he takes the inner three, Peter, James, and John, and he takes them a little steps further. And then he tells those three, he says, sit here, Dre, yonder, and I'm getting ready to go pray to my Father. And then the Bible tells me that he looked at Peter, James, and John, and he said, my soul is exceeding sorrowful and troubled. He said, wait right here until I go and pray and come back. And the Bible tells us when he went and prayed, he prayed the same prayer 3 times. He said, oh my Father, if it be possible, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but your will. Now let me help you with something, because Jesus was not afraid to die. He was not asking his Father, Father, I don't want to die. What Jesus was saying was, Daddy, I have never been separated from you since I've been here. And if I go to Calvary, that's going to cause a separation. So Daddy, if you can come up with any other plan other than me and you being separated to accomplish what I must accomplish, let's do that. But even if you can't, Daddy, I'm ready to die. So don't think Jesus was scared to die. Jesus just didn't want to be separated from his Father. And so much so the agony was there. The Bible said his sweat was as great drops of blood. Now, it didn't say he sweat blood. It said it was as great drops of blood. He did that right there in the Garden of Gethsemane. He went on to pray his great high priestly prayer that's recorded in John 17. He would eventually be arrested by the ecclesiastical mob, by church folk. And then, Floyd, he would end up at Calvary. Digger Richard, in this chapter, John chapter 15, Jesus is pictured for us as the true vine. In other words, Renee, he's saying, I'm the genuine article. Okay? He said, I am the true vine. He said it his own self. Now I can imagine our Lord Jesus walking, Brother Taylor, with these disciples through the darkened streets of the city and then passing beyond the walls to the surrounding countryside. During this time of year, which would have been mid-April, the grapevines would be beginning to blossom with the promise of a fresh harvest. And I could imagine, the text doesn't say it, but if you let me use my sanctified imagination, Sister McGinnis, if you let me religiously ramble, I can see the master teacher walking with them, and he looks up at this vineyard in John. I can see him literally grabbing one of them to use it to teach the boys an object lesson. Yeah. His desire is to teach them about the most vital union, about the most vital relationship that they must have in their lives, and that is with Jesus and his Father. Brandy Campbell, John 14 is interesting. It closes with Jesus telling the disciples what he would be doing for them. John 15 opens, Floyd, and now he's telling the disciples what you gonna do for me. He ended chapter 14 saying, this what I'm going to do for you. Now he starts 15 saying, and this what you going to do for me. Yeah, he's telling them that, Brother Arthur Brown. It's crystal clear in this chapter that Jesus is telling them about becoming a genuine disciple and about how to bear fruit for the glory of God. So once again, my brothers and my sisters, it's going to take us 3 weeks to get to where I really want to go. But on today, I just want to talk, first of all, about a powerful partnership on today. And that partnership, Severnia, is between the true vine and the husbandman, or the vine dresser. So on today, Jones, what came down through the grapevine to me, what I heard about, according to verse 1a, is I heard through the grapevine, Brown, it has come to my attention, someone has told me about the person of the true vine. Look at verse 1a. It said, I am the true vine. Yeah, Jesus and Jesus alone is the only one that possesses life within himself. He says, all others are counterfeits. Jesus said, I may be often imitated, but never once have I been duplicated. He says that. He says that. And if you look at the book of John, you know that John is built upon the system of sevens. And you know 7, Moses, is the number of perfection in the Bible. And John Brown is built on 3 staircases of 7s, if you will. There's 7 signs or 7 miracles in the book of John. The first one is in chapter 2, where he changed H2O into Johnny Walker Red. That's where he changed water, Kevin, to wine. The second one is in John chapter 4, where he healed the nobleman's son. The third miracle in John is in chapter 5, Deacon Richardson, where he healed a man at Bethesda. The fourth one, or the next one, in John chapter 6, is when he fed the 5,000 souls. Also in chapter 6, you will find Jesus walking on the water. The 6th one is in John 9, where he heals the blind man that has been born from birth, blind from birth. And then the 7th one is in John chapter 11, where he heals his good friend Lazarus. Not only are there 7 signs or miracles in John, but there are also 7 witnesses in the book of John. The first witness is in chapter 1, verse 34. And if you just let me call these witnesses to the stand, my brothers and my sisters, let them say what they said about Jesus. John the Baptist, can you come and can you take the witness stand and can you tell us what you told the people about Jesus? He said, yes, sir. John the Baptist said, this is the Son of God. I need a second witness. I need Nathaniel. I heard you said something about him, Nathaniel. Can you come and share with us what it is with what you said about this Jesus? He said yes in chapter 1 verse 49. He takes the witness stand. He said, thou art the Son of God. I need another witness, Peter. I know you're known for cussing and pulling knives, but you also said something about Jesus in John chapter 6, verse 69. So if you don't mind, if you can take the witness stand, raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. He said, I'll do that. Peter, what did you say? He said, I say he is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Let me call a woman, just in case you got a problem with man. Let me call Miss Martha to the table. You said something in John chapter 11 about Jesus. I want to hear your testimony. She said, no problem. What I said was, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Thomas, come to the stand. They called you doubting Thomas. I want to know what you was talking about. Thomas takes the stand, Kevin, in John chapter 20 and verse 28 and said, thou art my God and thou art my Lord. John, I need you to take the stand. What do you got to say about him? John said in John chapter 20 verse 31, John said, Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. And then I said, Jesus, can you take the stand yourself and tell us what you got to say? This is what other folks said, but what do you say about yourself? And in John 10:36, Jesus took the witness stand and said, yes, I am the Son of God. So Richardson, not only do they have 7 signs of miracles, not only, Dominique, do they have 7 witnesses, but also in John's gospel, you will find the 7 I ams. You will find the 7 I ams. The first one, remember, was in John chapter 6:35, where Jesus said, I am the bread of life. The second one you will find in John 8:12, where Jesus said, I am the light of the world. The third one you will find in John 8:58, when he was talking to the Jews and said, before Abraham was, I am. They said, what do you mean before Abraham was, you am? Don't you know that Abraham been dead 2,000 and something years, and you got nerve to say you saw Abraham? And that's when he made that statement and said, boy, before Abraham ever existed, I am, I was, I am who I'm going to be, I am who I am. And Floyd, the next one was in John chapter 10 verse 11, when he said, I am the good shepherd. The next one was in John 11:25, where he talked to those 2 sisters and said, I'm the resurrection and the life. The 6th one was in John 14:6, when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And now the 7th one is in John 15. As the text opened, Jesus said, I am the true vine. I understand there's some fakes, there's some quakes, there's some quacks, there's some shakers, there's some fakers. He said, I am the true Grapevine.